Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, glad you're back on the Investigative Journal on this Wednesday, July 19th, 2017 day on our calendar. And before I get to, we're going to get back to Bart Sabrell today and talk about the funny thing happened on the way to the moon, get into a little discussions about NASA and all of the frauds that have been put upon us over the years, even going to the point of, you can't believe one word they say. That's the truth. And NASA was put together by, guess who? Who has more astronomers in the world than the Jesuit order? Just check it out since the 1500s. And you will see that they've been at this hoax for years. But anyway, what I wanted to get at today was the pledge drive I'm running on my website. Just go to arcticbeacon.com. It'll direct you to a new site called Greg Anthony's Journal.wordpress.com. We're improving it as we speak, and I want to thank Nicholas over at the radio station for dedicating his time. And if you go there in the right column, you're going to see a number of things that go back to Nick's site. Get his book, get some things that he writes about, and it's well worth it. So, back to the moon landing. But before I do that, I wanted to get out. Somebody sent me an email and said, Greg, could you update us on the Alamo ministry? You did so many stories. And then when Tony died, we haven't heard much. Well, that was a very traumatic time for the ministry. And I had the feeling that they needed a little bit of space and a little bit of privacy to grieve, just like we all do. And that's exactly what I did. But I will say this, you can go to their website. They're still up and running. They're still doing the exact same thing. And I imagine Tony's looking down, pretty happy about it. So go to their website and check them out. And as the weeks and the months go along, I will be updating you and having some of the members on again if they so choose. So there you go. Now, here we are on this Wednesday, and I've been deeply involved in this moon landing story since yesterday, and I've been thinking about it all the time. And I started thinking that if they can do this to people, if they can deceive us to this extent, get us to pay all this money for computer images, just imagine what we don't know. What we don't know about Antarctica, what we don't even know about the shape of our Earth, what we don't know. If we were actually dealing with honest people, this world would be such a different place. But I guess God ordained it that way. That's the way I view it. And that's what he wanted. And for what reason? Well, only God knows, but I have my thoughts about it. And I've just, talked about that on other shows on why God permits evil. And I say go back to the story of Adam, not Adam and Eve, but really the story of Cain and Abel. And it really explains some things when you really start digging deep into it. So that's all I wanted to say about that. So let's get back to the moon. And this interview I did in 2005, always when I do these, I always ask my listeners, where were you in 2005? What were you doing on the exact date? In October, I believe this was October or November 15th in 2005. And I can tell you exactly where I was and what I was doing. And I even remember what I was eating that night. No, I don't. But I do remember a lot about that evening. And I know some of my furry friends were with me that are no longer here. Max wasn't even born yet. And Moose was just about a year old. So we were just spring chickens back then, myself included. And I'll give you a little hint. Where I was, it was snowing. Where were you in 2005? Boy, how the time just travels by, doesn't it? It's amazing. I'm sitting here going 2017. I looked at my car tags, and you know what? This crazy. Why don't they do it every 2 or 3 years? I mean, it's just a moneymaker. I'm so tired. The time goes by so fast. I put the car tag on. I look down again, and it's time to renew it. And boy, does California get you on that. And they will do anything. When you drive, if you're driving in California without tags, you're always looking behind you. Oh God, is there a cop behind me? And they will stop you for that because it's money. Now here where I live, on the other side of the border, we got people driving in cars with no license plates, cracked windshields, license plates from I don't know where. I've seen so many expired California plates, and I started to wonder, okay, what happens if I don't go back to the States and I let my driver's license expire? Because it's due in September, my birthday. What happens if I don't get my tags? Well, I'll probably get pulled over as soon as I cross the border. And then you got to deal with insurance. So you got to do it, I guess. But the second thing is this. Can you get a Mexican license? I don't know. I think I'll look into it. But anyway, I digress. Let's get to Bart Sabrell. And we were in the middle of a conversation where we're asking all these people to call in. I remember that. It was like call-in city that day. And I don't even remember who, I can't remember who called in, but probably some were good, some were bad. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad I don't take calls anymore. It's just amazing. But here we go with Bart Sabrell.
Okay. So, according to NASA, the reason why they launch in Orlando is to stay close to the equator in order to have the greatest potential for orbiting the Earth in the best possible place. The fact is, no mission in the history of space flight has ever left Earth orbit except going to the moon. Gemini, Mercury, Soyuz, Skylab, the space shuttle. They all orbit well below the radiation Mars missions. Now, in 1994, they went to the highest altitude a human has ever gone, other than allegedly going to the moon, 350 miles. Now, that's 650 miles away from the beginning of a 25,000-mile thick belt of radiation. And just as you said, they could see the radiation with their eyes. But you got to imagine, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Imagine that in Oklahoma City, there's a nuclear event so powerful that with my eyes closed, I can see the radiation hitting the retinas of my closed eyes. So that's 650 miles before the beginning of the radiation. CNN issued the following report in 1994, and I'll quote it word for word. The radiation belt surrounding the Earth is more dangerous than previously believed. Well, meaning previously believed was going to the moon, but no one ever connected the dots there and realized, well, if it's more dangerous than previously believed, then how could they have gone through it to the moon? Because they did not go through it.
Okay, we have a Mike. Thanks for calling Investigative Journal. I've got a whole bunch of callers. You keep listening and listen to some of the information in the second hour that Bart's going to give you that's going to really shock you. But anyway, I want to get to one more caller. We have Anthony, Roger, and Jim. I'm going to get to Anthony. Where are you from, Anthony? You're on the Investigative Journal.
I'm from Arkansas.
Okay, great. What town?
Russellville.
Is that near where Clinton was born, or what?
I hope not. No, he was supposed to be from Hope or
okay.
Or we don't know. Anyway.
Well, what's your question to Bart?
Well, actually, Bart, I've heard you before. I think it was an Art Bell show or Coast to Coast a long time ago. I've been meaning to ask, what about the other Apollo missions, especially like the 13 and the others that supposedly orbited the moon?
Good question. That's a great question. The secret footage that Greg wants to talk about in the next hour, basically we found classified footage that someone put the wrong label on. Oops. And they're faking a shot of being halfway to the moon. Now, we know they were on the rocket. They were on the rocket. They did go up. That way they could go up in front of witnesses and splash down in front of witnesses, but they never left Earth orbit. And this new footage that we have shows them faking a shot of being halfway to the moon.
You know that, and I may add, that is incredible stuff. We'll get into that, all the little technical things about that, because that really put me over the edge.
Me too. That's the one that convinced me.
Right.
I gave him the benefit of the doubt prior to even though the shadows intersect, even though they never give interviews, even though the radiation, even though this, I still said they probably went until I found this footage.
You know, one thing about that Van Allen belt, some people back then were saying that we needed to have a lead shield.
Yeah, the Soviets calculated a 2-foot lead shield in order to reach the moon.
And that would have drastically increased the weight where we never would have been able to leave, correct?
That's right.
Anthony, do you have another question?
Well, I'm just interested to hear about that other footage. And
okay, you listen in the second hour. We're going to get to that. There's a few things I want to cover. But anyway, let's talk about that lead shield, and then we'll get to Roger and Jim in the next half hour also. So go ahead. That lead shield that we couldn't put on the spacecraft to protect us from the Van Allen belt.
Well, CNN reported in '94 that the radiation belt surrounding the Earth is more dangerous than previously believed. Well, they went through it to the moon, so it's more dangerous than when they went through it. So people never connected that, oh, okay, well, then how did they go through it to reach the moon? Mm-hmm. You see, you got to understand that it's been 72, 82, 92, it's been almost 35 years before anyone has ever gone more than 350 miles away from there. Why is it if we went to the moon 35 years ago, in 35 years, no one has ever left more than 350 miles above the Earth?
Did you ever ask anybody the simple question, why don't we go back again?
Exactly. If Lindy flew across the Atlantic in 1928, would there be 50 years before someone flew over it again?
Did they ever tell you why? Did they give you money reasons?
No. And the thing is, if we could play golf on the moon a third of a century ago, surely we'd have bases there by now, except we weren't there for the first time. And guess who was president during the moon landings? Tricky Dick.
Richard Nixon.
Tricky Dick was the president during the moon landings. And lo and behold, you know, that was the time when we absolutely did not. I gave him the benefit of the doubt until I found this footage. And when I found the footage, I'm like, it's not a theory. It's a fact. They did not go. I bet my life on it.
I know, you've done some incredible research, and I love the research you did about the original photos that came back to the viewers, to the TV stations, and tell us about the grainy black and white footage.
Well, the only footage that the American public got was this black and white television picture of them kind of bouncing around on the moon. Mm-hmm. It actually I think it looks very convincing.
Hey, Bart, can you hold that? We'll talk about the Americans bouncing on the moon in black and white, and why not color, when we had the technology. And we got Roger and Jim. We're going to get to you. Don't worry. Hold on. The Investigative Journal. 54 minutes after the hour on the Investigative Journal, our last segment before we slide into our second hour with this really great subject about a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. Bart Sibrel has investigated this story since he was 14 years old. It's incredible information. Bart, how can people get a hold of this video? It's a 48-minute video, well worth watching. Where can they find it?
They can go to moonmovie.com.
Moonmovie.com. And when did it come out, by the way?
It came out at the end of 2001.
Okay.
It cost $500,000.
How come I never saw it?
Well, I can't unofficially. There was a particular network that did buy the film.
Okay, yeah, this thing, I mean, it's been out, but it hasn't been around, let me tell you that.
It's never been broadcast.
Okay.
The documentary channel wants to air it in the spring of next year, but there was one major network who bought it when it first came out.
Okay.
Then 3 days before it was supposed to air, they canceled it.
So they bought it up to hide it, and then
I think they bought it to air it, and then they got a phone call from somebody, and they didn't air it. To retract it, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. That's a story in itself. So you've had this done for a while. Finally, it's getting out to the people, thank God. Because I've just seen it recently.
Most people haven't heard of it. The fact is, 4 out of 5 people who see it reverse their opinion.
Oh, yeah, and I want to know, I'd love to know who was the person that called the network to stop...
No, I'm not allowed to say that, actually. We have a contractual agreement.
I know.
I didn't sign it, so technically I probably could say who it was, but just to be kind of playing nice,
Right.
you know, the executive producer of the film, who is anonymous, who put a lot of money into the film.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. So at least we know the story. Let me take a call. Roger's back again from Pennsylvania. Roger, you're on the Investigative Journal.
Yeah, thanks. Something more substantive this time. 2 questions, if you please. What are the just rough figures of the reported intensity levels of the radiation such that you could be credited in 10 minutes, or you only live 10 years after exposure, or how does that shake out?
What was the second question?
Well, that was the first one.
Well, all we know is that Van Allen, when he discovered the belts, and he calculated going through them to a trip to the moon, he said there was a 50% chance of having a fatality of going through the moon. Going to the moon through the belts. Now, with radiation, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months, but it's probably certainly less than 6 months that you would die of radiation sickness. Probably 2 weeks to 2 months.
Yeah, okay, well, that would make it.
He said there was a 50% chance of it.
Yeah, okay.
Now, when someone said, hey, Bart, take this trip, there's a 50% chance you're going to die, I'd pass on it, personally,
Okay, Roger, you have another question?
Yeah,
Quickly.
of course, even if you live 10 years out, of course, you'd be all kinds of health problems, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, the second to last is more not so much technical, which I wanted to get back to them, but I hope you cover this aspect, and that is the sort of the socioeconomic rationale for because you mentioned Sputnik earlier, and you have this big space race, and these Russians were beating us out, and that's probably a hoax as well, Sputnik. But what I was getting at is the impetus to destroy our education system by this so-called, we got to get up to these high Russian standards where you show some real... We all seen his photographs of the real intellectual-looking Russian engineering student who's beating the pants off us. And then, as Joseph Sobran aptly put it, a small step for man, a giant leap for collectivism.
Hey, Roger, thanks a lot. We'll get to that question. We'll answer that. I don't know if it was so much of a question, but a statement. But anyway, we're going to take a break. Roger, thanks for being with us on the Investigative Journal. We'll be back with Bart and the trip to the moon. Okay, we're back on the Investigative Journal. I'm talking to Bart Sabrell. He's telling us about why the moon landing never took place. And I guess Roger wanted that question answered. What did you feel about the way this has affected our educational system by, if this is true, by covering it up, telling lies to our children?
Well, that's very sad.
Yeah, in fact, my son did a report, I remember last year, on Armstrong, Neil Armstrong. And I posed that question to him, and he kind of was skeptical, but he was 12 years old at the time. So, I mean, yeah, we still have this being perpetuated, and maybe we should get down to the truth. So tell us, Bart, let's get to this. We talked about a number of the discrepancies. One, the Van Allen shield. Two, the pictures, with the shadows that don't add up. And now, when you're doing this research, tell us how you uncovered this fake footage that was being made, and basically be specific on how this took place.
Sure.
And we'll do this for 2 minutes, take a break, then come back, so go ahead.
Let me say this during the 2 minutes, at the half-hour point, the halftime point.
Right, so we'll get it. Go ahead.
If they could go to the moon, let's say the United States could go to the moon. Let's say they could go to the moon and plant a flag and play golf and drive a car on the moon. Let's just say they could do that, right? That would have a certain level of significance to mankind, right? Historically. Right. Now, Greg and Kelly, listen to this. If they couldn't go to the moon and they lied about it and they murdered people to make it go down, that's more profound historically than if they'd actually gone. And I uncovered footage of them faking one scene of the moon mission, which proves they did not go.
And this never came out before.
That's correct. So
and
now
how did you get a hold of it?
We'll go into that after the break. But now we know, I know, and you know because you've seen it. Right. We know that they did not go to the moon. So here we have, this is the amazing thing. Here we have a greater event in history than if they'd actually gone, because the faking of the moon landing, the setting of the goal by Kennedy to go to the moon before the end of the 60s.
That was his goal. I remember him saying that, and you bring it up in your video, and then we do it in 1969, right?
And he was 5% before the deadline, in July of 69. So here we have the martyr of the country setting this prideful goal to go to the moon before the end of the 60s.
Yeah.
And now we know that so here we have two possibilities. Either they went, right, and that would have a certain level of significance historically, or if they didn't go and they lied about it and murdered people, you see, Greg, that's more profound than if they had actually gone. Do you understand that?
Oh, I understand perfectly what yes, it is. And now we got to figure out how to, you're on your way. Did you ever talk to any of these, I'm sure they don't want to speak, but did you ever try to get a hold of these astronauts?
Yeah, I spoke to 9 of them face to face. So,
I want to ask you about that.
If they didn't go and they faked it, that's more profound of an event historically than if they'd actually gone. Do you understand that?
I do.
The faking of the moon landing is more profound of an event than if they'd actually gone. And this new footage, which we'll talk after the break, proves that it is absolutely true.
All right.
All right, yes, and we're back here in 2017. I've got about 3 minutes to the end of this half hour in the present time. And I thought instead of starting over, we'll catch Bart on after our break here, because it's a fascinating interview, and I recall speaking to him many hours off the air as well. And I found him to be very meticulous in his research. Now, when we talk about that one scene, and you can go to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon and watch it yourself. Like he said, 4 out of 5 people changed their mind. I mean, it's an incredible situation, and he'll tell you how he got his hands on that. So come back for the second half hour. But it just brings to mind, how many other things do they fake? How many deaths do they fake? How many wars are orchestrated? How many things are done behind our back? And you have to be skeptical, because if you have solid evidence that they lied on this massive universal scale, how can you believe anything they say? It's kind of like if you're in a marriage, and whether it be the man or the woman, and you're caught red-handed making love to another man or woman, it's pretty much over after that, even though people do repair their relationships, because the trust is gone. There's no more believing anything. Oh, yes, honey, I went out with the boys tonight. Or, yes, dear, I was playing canasta with the women. No one believes you after that. And it's the same scenario. If they lied to us about it, why should we believe them about anything? And so that, to me, back in 2005, was very important. Because, like he said, up until that point, I had watched all of the, other movies that were out, the way that the flags were bending, and I always gave them the benefit of the doubt, and I really didn't have the understanding that they had me so brainwashed since I saw a globe from the first time I grew up. You're in your playpen, and they put a globe over your head, so you think you're living on this round sphere that's traveling at enormous speeds, kind of like Superman, and everything stays in place. It's that's how you grow up with this. And if they could do that, imagine what they do, behind the scenes and all these other things that we talk about. They're kind of like the evil magicians on the earth. They pull a rabbit out of the hat. They make somebody disappear into the night. But the real problem is, it isn't just a show. They're actually making people disappear, or they actually create scenarios in the historical landscape when you start reading history that really you can't believe a word you read anymore in history, can you? So we have to dissect it here and then hopefully, come to some kind of conclusion. But, I was thinking as I was listening to this, I was much happier in 2005. I didn't know quite as much about the duplicity of the Jesuits and everything. And it seems as the more I learn about them, the unhappier I get because I realize, wow, what a life. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, folks, we're back for the second half hour on this July 19th, 2017 day on our calendar. And we're talking with Bart Sabrell. You know, it's fun. We go back in time. It's kind of like a time machine, a radio time machine. And I ask you, where were you on November 15th, 2005? And were you having a good evening, a good day? Do you remember exact house you were living in, what state you were in? We travel a lot as Americans now. We move all over the place. And if somebody would have told me in December I'd be where I am today, I would have said, no way, Jose. But, excuse me, I'm here. And so when we look back over the years, you know, it's nice to have a radio show because my whole life is geared towards what was I doing in 2006? And so I put on a 2006 radio show. And it reminds me of where I was. So there's some really good things about it, right? Because otherwise I'd have forgotten. I can't remember what I did yesterday. So I turned on my radio show and I said, oh yeah, I remember now. So anyway, let's get back to Bart Sabrell. He's got a lot better things to talk about. And please look at this video. We have so many things. You know, we got 9/11. We got, you know, Hurricane Katrina. How many disasters? How many things? We got wars going on here. We got, you know, the follies of Washington to deal with. All of this stuff. I mean, one, you know, terrorist attack after another. People are getting tired of this kind of, you know, they're getting their minds battered with all this bad news. So sometimes when I do a story like this, take it lightly. You know, it's kind of like, I feel like a kid in the candy store when I start talking about, hey, we didn't go to the moon. What a great deal, you know. And at least they, you know, we know they didn't, and we caught them in their lie. And why doesn't somebody ask the Pope what he thinks about it? That would be, oh, the Pope would have a great answer. I think I want to go to the moon to molest the aliens up there. He'd have a joyful time. But anyway, here we go with Bart Sabrell. And a funny thing happened on the way to the moon, folks. You know, we never went.
We'll be back with Bart Sabrell on the Investigative Journal. Okay, we're back for the second hour of the Investigative Journal. I'm talking to Bart Sabrell. He's got an interesting video which disproves the moon landing in 1969. And Bart, I've got to listen to this. I got a caller in Florida. John, you hold on. We'll get to you. But Bart, tell us about how you uncovered this exclusive footage which shows the astronauts, you know, faking pictures out of their space shuttle.
Oh, sure, Greg. Do you have the ability to play back the audio of the DVD on the air?
No, I don't believe so right now because they don't have a copy of it.
Oh, but
so I don't have the ability right now because of my limited. Go ahead.
I saw the old guy on TV when I'm 14. 10 years later, I'm editing for his producer.
Right.
And I basically, he says, 10 years later, hey, you're a filmmaker, you should do a documentary about it. So I take off 6 months, pay myself a salary.
Right.
And I find out the shadows intersect. Neil Armstrong doesn't give interviews. Michael Collins doesn't give interviews. And the administrator of NASA, the highest ranking civilian employee of NASA, resigns without explanation a few days before the first Apollo mission.
Right.
Whatever connects the dots here.
Did you ever get a chance to talk with him?
No, he died. But, any case, I basically, figure out...
Was that suspicious, or...?
Not necessarily. Basically, I figure there's at least a 25% chance, a 1 out of 4 chance that we didn't go to the moon. And I'm in my early 20s, and I'm like, I want to have a wife and a family someday.
Right.
So I turned down the project.
Okay.
I figure I'm a liar. Everybody's a liar. Why should I risk my life for someone else's BS? Okay. Then about 5 years go by, and I develop the spiritual conviction. I start reading the Bible about the truth. The truth will set you free.
Okay, and I noticed you have a couple of those quotes in the beginning of your video.
Right. The Holy Spirit is the spirit of what? Truth. Okay. And then I realize if we didn't go to the moon, it's very important. Because like I said before the break, if we could go to the moon, that will have a certain level of significance to mankind. If we didn't go, lied about it, murdered people, that's more profound of an event historically than if we had actually gone.
All right.
And what happened was, is I was going through all of this footage of the moon landing. I figured if they didn't go to the moon, they're more likely to have made a mistake the first time they faked it, right, Greg?
Exactly. They weren't good at making the reproduction.
Exactly. So I asked for all the footage from the first moon mission only, all film, all video. I lied. I admit it. I lied. I said I was doing a 30th anniversary commemorative film on the event, and I was very thorough, you see.
Well, we'll forgive you for that white lie, and if you're a Catholic, you can go, bless me, Father Christ.
Right. So I'm going through the last of the tapes, and I pop in a tape, and it says on the screen, do not show to the public. And I'm thinking, oh, this should be interesting. I'm going to hit fast forward on the tape, and, I'm a filmmaker. I can see things at 20 times normal speed and still pick up on most of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, this is on. I see the same shot for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes. I asked NASA for unedited footage. I got none of unedited footage, except this tape that had the wrong label on it.
Wow. So that's how you figure they gave it to you. They mislabeled it?
Someone put the wrong label on it in 1969.
Yeah, because when I watched that, I said, Jesus, how did they get this? Because they're not going to give this to anyone.
No, it was an accident. The 9/11 conspiracy guys, the only guy they're prosecuting for the 9/11, he received classified information through public disclosure by accident.
Yep.
They're doing that. They're doing that in the 21st century.
Yeah, and what was that old statement? A conspiracy theory, by the definition, is unexplainable and unsolvable only if they make a mistake. So this was a mistake.
They made a mistake.
Okay.
And that's what I was looking for. And basically, if your listeners can imagine a mostly black TV screen, let's imagine, all you listeners, that you're looking at a TV screen.
Right. Well,
and the TV screen is mostly black, and inside of the middle of it is a little blue tennis ball-sized Earth. Now, 2 days into the flight, they're supposed to be halfway to the moon, 130,000 miles to the moon.
Right. And this is the footage you have, and that's on the video.
This is the never-before-seen footage.
Okay.
And they allegedly have, as they say on the tape, the camera, the lens, to the one and only window that faces the Earth. So the lens is at the glass of the spacecraft to shoot the tiny Earth floating in space 130,000 miles away.
Right.
But they're faking the shot. This is the only shot that the astronauts faked themselves. They actually had the camera at the back of the spacecraft with all the lights off, all of which they talk about because they thought these conversations would be edited out.
Yeah, because they're saying they're blackening the windows to keep out the sunlight.
So they're in Earth orbit. So 2 days into the flight, when they should be halfway to the moon, they're still in Earth orbit.
And what proves that fact? Just because, when you see it, it really is clear, but just try to explain what proves they were only that distance from this footage.
As of a few weeks ago, we finally put the secret footage on our website, moonmovie.com, and you can actually see the shot where they take the camera and it's not at the window, which it would have to be if they were shooting the Earth far away. They put it at the back of the spacecraft and turn out all the lights and
block the windows to keep the sunlight out, right?
Exactly. And 10 to 20 feet in front of the camera is a circular window.
And they say that in the footage. I hear this. They're blackening the windows.
Yes. And basically they're faking a shot of being halfway to the moon. And you have to ask yourself, if they really went to the moon, why would they be faking any of it? And if they're faking being halfway to the moon, it's because they couldn't go halfway.
Hey, let me take a caller real quick and we'll get back to this. John in Florida, you're on the Investigative Journal. John, are you there?
On.
Go ahead, get close to the phone.
Greg, hello?
Yes.
Ready?
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay. Brad?
Bart, go ahead.
Bart? Okay, I've been breathing oxygen for 60 years, so I was about 24 when this alleged space landing on the moon first time occurred. I believe that there have been several other landings that subsequently followed. Now, I want to put a question to you, okay? since I was about 9 when I got my first telescope, okay, how is it that there haven't been some people who study the skies, whether professional or amateurs, who might have been interested in tracking the flights of some of these capsules, rockets, spacecraft, okay, that haven't come forward to, basically discredit the claims of NASA in light of, like, what you're now saying?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, and there are two answers to that.
I mean, have all these people been brainwashed? Did somebody
there are two answers to this question. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Okay, the first answer to that question is, imagine that the entire United States population are children of O.J. Simpson. Okay? Now, O.J. may be innocent. He's probably not. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. They're possibly...
Get to the point. I don't understand.
Wait a minute. We're not here. Yeah, I am. I've only...
I think you like to just eloquently, elaborate nonsense.
Okay, John, just let him give the answer.
Yeah, I'm sorry that 10 seconds wasn't enough for you. Okay, so basically, O.J. may be innocent or guilty. I suspect he's probably guilty, but his children will never believe that Daddy killed Mommy, no matter what you say. Now, the American public are overzealous and wrongly zealous for the government. They'll never believe, part of them, that the United States faked going to the moon. There's a psychological inhibition to preventing the concept in the minds of the people. Then the second answer is the fact that the spacecraft was about the size of maybe very, 2 microbuses from Volkswagen. So trying to find them in the hundreds of thousands of miles between the Earth and the Moon was like trying to find a rowboat in the Atlantic Ocean. It actually could not be tracked. In fact, the Soviet Union only developed the technology to track an Apollo spacecraft in October of 1972, and subsequently, immediately after their capability, the following 2 moon missions were abruptly canceled.
Okay, John, thanks a lot for your question in Florida. I've got the calls stacking up here, so we're going to have to get to them. I want to finish on this live. We got Don in Ohio, Mike, Gary in Tennessee, and we're going to get to all of you after our break. We got a couple minutes here. Bart, this incredible, when I was watching it last night, I saw him even faking the little, there was a shot that showed some really crazy things in the window, and I can't quite remember what it was, but it showed that they didn't get the Earth properly in their camera, so they had to change some things.
That's right.
What was all that about? That's not a good explanation, but remember those things that showed up strangely on their...
Basically, 4 out of 5 people who see this film reverse their opinion as to whether the moon landings are fraudulent. It's largely based on this classified footage, which you can see at moonmovie.com, and they're faking a shot of being halfway to the moon. We have the unedited behind-the-scenes footage of fake photography, and it's the only thing that convinced me, Greg.
Right, and we'll be back with some more calls and finish up with you as another half hour of the Investigative Journal.
Okay, I know what I'm going to do tonight. Now I'm back in 2017 in a lonely, lonely house. My doggies have left for greener pastures, and I think I'm going to watch this movie tonight and go to that scene where they really do fake it. It's an amazing story, and some of the things you got to learn about Bart, he didn't stop there. He did another video called Astronauts Gone Wild, where he actually got punched by one of the astronauts, and when you watch their reactions to his questions, you realize they didn't go. And it's interesting that the main character, the main astronaut who set foot on the Earth, or the moon, he said, only did one interview. And boy, when I remember during Astronauts Gone Wild, he played their press conference after they got back supposedly from the moon, and it was so telling that these guys, they do it now. You just watch when they interview astronauts that supposedly are on the space station, which doesn't exist. Same thing. But anyway, let's get back to Bart Sibrel. We got about 10 minutes, and I'm sure we'll have some more fun today. These kind of stories make me feel like a kid in a candy store.
Okay, we're back for the last half hour of the Investigative Journal. Bart Sibrel's here giving us compelling information that he uncovered that we never went to the moon in 1969. Bart, we got a number of callers. We're taking calls, by the way, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Call in, talk to Kelly. We'll get you on the air. We've got a half hour to talk with Bart here regarding this information that he uncovered that basically shows that we didn't go to the moon, this unedited. Is there any other explanation he ever came up with about this footage that could discount your theory? I mean, you must have thought of that.
Greg, God, I wish. You don't understand. It would be so much better for mankind if they really did go to the moon. Trust me, I really wish they did go to the moon, but the fact is they did not.
Right, and have you had any people try from NASA, once they found out you got this footage, did you get contacted by them?
No, NASA didn't know. NASA was fooled.
Okay.
NASA really thought they were going to the moon. That's one of the easiest and simplest questions. How could you fool 400,000 people?
Right.
Because the 400,000 people did not know. Now,
how did they do that?
Easily. The astronauts were on the rocket. They went up into Earth orbit. And all the computer guys were receiving information from a computer program. Alan Krantz admitted only 1 year ago that the flight crews could tell no difference whatsoever between a simulation and an actual flight.
And how did they get this computer program made that showed that the spacecraft was thousands and thousands of miles away?
We had two people who worked on the computer program. We had Von Braun, we had the flight director. So that's only 4 people. Only 4 people at NASA knew they weren't going to the moon. And then once they were in Earth orbit, obviously the moon sets were fake. Those were done probably at Area 51 with people with tight security clearances, swore their life away. So you potentially had the moon landings being faked with less than 100 people.
So you're telling me there's a program that was made that could show a blip that was 200,000 miles away.
No,
instead, these guys were only a couple hundred miles outside of the office.
They didn't have the technology back then.
Okay. We're going to take a call. Don in Ohio, you're on the Investigative Journal.
Yeah, I brought this subject up to John yesterday on his show. I got a couple of thoughts on it. Have you ever heard of the Coke bottles that they seen on the moon down in Australia because it was an unbroken feed?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, that could be folklore, that could be whatever.
Okay, well, I mean, they said that they were supposed to break away from it, but they kept on filming it because it was going...
It's possible. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
Another thought, too, is that when you hear their communications between them and supposedly the moon, it's, without any break in between. I mean, there's no time delay at all. It's like they're in the next room.
Yeah, sometimes there's a time delay, sometimes they're not. That's why I was asking Greg and Kelly to play back the opening segment of track 5 on the DVD, which basically, I didn't really notice this at first. There were several discoveries that came out after the film was released. The film you can get at moonmovie.com, but there were actually several discoveries that came after the movie came out that we were kind of slow to pick up on. One of which is the very beginning of the secret footage. The secret footage, which is at moonmovie.com. I mean, it's unbelievable. I feel like it's a miracle that we even have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical. That picture will tell 1,000 words. Go ahead.
It proves we didn't go to the moon. But there's an audio clip that if you played on the radio, you could actually, describe it. Basically, okay. All the listeners out there, imagine you're seeing a black TV. Turn on your TV, it's all black. And in the middle of it is a little blue tennis ball-sized Earth. Now, there's trying to demonstrate 2.5 days into the flight that, see, here we are far away from the Earth. We've got the lens of the camera, according to the astronauts, at the window to shoot the tiny Earth far away. Okay, so the very first part of the footage is this. You hear NASA say, hey, Apollo 11, the TV picture looks great. Then there's dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air. And then you hear someone say, talk. And then Neil Armstrong speaks. Now, I thought they were preoccupied with taking the shot. No. You see, they were 200 miles above the Earth, but they're supposed to be 130,000 miles away. So the radio frequency would have taken longer to reach them than respond and come back. So there was a CIA guy with a stopwatch, and the astronauts had an earphone in each ear, you see. And when they said, hey, the TV picture looks great, they heard it immediately. But they were told 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004.
I believe it.
Now, here's the amazing thing about this. Okay, here's the most amazing thing about this. The latest DVD release, okay, from whatever the company is, the thorough, they released the window shot. They released our secret footage. They have to. Because we can't fake Neil Armstrong's 33-year younger face in zero gravity. So they have to acknowledge that the footage is real. And what they say is that they were practicing but basically they were the talk. The talk is then being prompted when to speak to create the radio delay as if they were further away than they really were.
Okay, good point, Bart. We're going to take a break. Be back in 3 minutes with a number of callers on the Investigative Journal. 30.
Okay, so let's leave it at that. We got maybe another 20 minutes, and I know I may play it tomorrow, but I only have about a minute and a half here in 2017, and I thought I'd just give a few of my thoughts regarding this whole scenario of NASA. And you know what strikes me is that they go to such extent. Just imagine if they could use their ability just to do the good things, the truthful things, instead of going to all these extremes to lie. Imagine what they had to do to get this across, and and my thoughts were, how many people really knew? How far did it go? And my questions are going to be very simple in the last 40 seconds. Did the President of the United States know? Did the Russian president know? Did the Chinese president know? Did the Jesuit general know? Did the Pope know? I want to know that answer. And my theory is this. They knew something was up. And I think it's that plausible deniability. Don't tell me, and I won't know, but I know. So that's exactly what I think was going on. They put it in the hands of Werner von Braun, a Nazi, who started NASA. And that's never covered. And what was their goal? Their goal for the whole system of this whole thing is to control you. To tell you this is the way you're going to live, and we're going to live by our rules, and we're going to make the rules. We're going to make the shape of the earth. We're going to make everything the way it's supposed to be for us, and you will obediently obey. Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188.